Nate, do you have any loaner cars?
Yeah, I do.
How many you got?
Currently, I have 4 different loaner cars. 2 of them are designated for a certain construction company because they've already kind of destroyed them. And they kind of mess them up with all their tools and stuff. And then I have 2 other loaner cars. One's a 09 Honda CRV, all black. And then the other one is a 09 Subaru Outback, which is all black as well.
Very nice.
And those two ones go out to our normal everyday customers kind of thing.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. Are you using a software or a browser interface for your loaner agreements, or are you doing it in paper?
Paper, just a paper contract that we pulled off of through Google. And we just, it's short and sweet, just fill it up with gas, no smoking, no drinking alcohol in the car. And you drive it, they sign it, I sign it. I put the date, what kind of car it is, and that's it.
You get a copy of their driver's license.
Yep. Copy of their driver's license and also a copy of their insurance card. Now,
Nice.
If their insurance is on the phone, as long as I see it visually that it's up to date, I'm good with that as well.
Right.
Yep.
So we have, I want to say I've got 6 in service right now, and they're all older cars. Right. And I tell you what, after putting some Toyotas in the loaner fleet, and they have over 350,000 miles in them, I think I'm going to buy Toyotas from now on.
Yep.
But, one of the biggest things that I've found is I'm using a software. And I'm going to tell you right now that, man, that is a life changer, especially as far as scheduling, because that's where we were having problems, is that we would end up with somebody who needed a loaner and it didn't get reserved for them.
Right.
And we would have screwed up. So that's been a big one for us. Seth, what about you? Are you using something like ARS, or what are you using?
We looked in the ARS. We use our own tracking software. That works pretty well right now, but we, our loaners are scheduled through our system, and I mean our philosophy is we run, 1 loaner or 2 loaners per every tack plus an extra per location. We're running a little light on them now because our software allows us to share loaners from location and charge each location. So we already acquired the cars for the 3rd location. So I mean we're really heavy with loaners right now. But
right now, when you acquire your cars, do you lease them? Do you pay outright and just put them in a separate corporation? How do you do that with yours?
So we lease them. Our policy is an umbrella that allows us to move them from location to location. In our state, and frankly most states, putting them in its own entity does 0 legal protection. It's been brought up by certain people, and then it's like the lie that keeps getting regurgitated. If that was the case, every dealership would do the same. There's almost 0 legal protection, and I'll be honest that most of these guys that set up second, third companies for this stuff, they're not even filing the corporate minutes every quarter. They're not filing all the things that keeps their LLC protected anyways. So, and any lawsuit's going to be an ad hom lawsuit where they're going to sue. If you're the company that worked on the car last, right, you're going to be named in the lawsuit and just as liable as the company that owns the car.
Yep. Yeah. So. And I've definitely seen quite a bit of that. So I'll share a little bit about what we're thinking about doing. Rental cars are extremely limited in our area. And so you can't get actual rental cars. And I've been talking with some folks from the actual rental industry and talking more and more about the concept of actually bringing on some true rental cars, at which point we would lease more out of a fleet. Obviously with car pricing and things like that right now, I'm a whole lot happier sticking with what we already have in the fleet. We've got 6, and that handles all of the shop's needs as far as that goes, because it puts us with 3 per tech. So pretty happy with that. But definitely thinking about some changes as far as offering some more here down the road.
And to answer your other question, we do lease them. So we lease most of our cars.
Right. And are you doing that? So there are leasing operations who strictly do leases through or for rental car companies or for auto repair companies, are you doing a standard lease?
We're just doing a standard lease, business signs
Right.
on the business lease, and BMW would only give us 5 cars that way, so we did 5 from Volkswagen. I did 5 from BMW, 5 from Volkswagen. I think I did 3 from Mercedes. So
yeah.
And then some older cars for questionable customers, and then obviously we move in the Tesla market. I got 2 Teslas loaners.
Seth, how many do you do from Buick and Saturn?
What's a Buick and what's a Saturn? Are they cars? Do they drive?
Hey, wait a minute! Don't pick on Mike too much. Just because he's got Saturn loaners doesn't mean anything.
I mean, my whole fleet is all Saturn SLs.
Oh my God!
Somebody said Saturn SLs. Aren't those the 2-strokes? They burn as much oil as you put in.
That's awesome. I acquired a Mini a while back, and I told Dutch, I said, I'm not decided if I just want to turn around and sell it or if I want to keep it and put it on the loaner fleet. And he called me and he said, "What the hell's wrong with you? Do you just want your client to be broke down on the side of the road?" Damn it, Dutch.
Yep, that's what it is. I don't need any more blown head gaskets.
In that sort of stuff. No, thank you very much. I'd rather stick them in the Hondas and the Toyotas that we have for them to use.
I mean, I'd give David Roman a Mini and stuck him in the middle of the woods and then see if he makes it out.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, man. Yeah, so there's that. So, Maddie, how many loaner cars do you have? Oh, zero. Okay. There
All right,
you
hey,
go.
I have a loaner car question, and it was why I wanted to be here tonight. You either can lease new or buy new, whatever your decision is, right? Or you can have old junkers. I've got a fleet of old junkers that you have to maintain, right? What do you guys budget per month per car? Be that lease payment, note payment, maintenance of junker.
Seth, you want to start since you were just there?
Yeah, I mean we're $100 a car in insurance is our budget, and then our leases we try to stay under $350 a month, so we're $450 a car. On the lease stuff there's no maintenance, right? We take it to the dealer for free oil changes, which gives me a chance to scope out their service. It gives me a chance to get in and do some secret shopping. What people forget on older cars, and I'll say this and get off the soapbox on them, is it's 3 times what you think it costs you to repair, because that car never breaks down when you're slow. It always breaks down when you're busy. So it costs you not only the repair, it costs you the lost opportunity. It costs you that opportunity of that car going out with a customer. The costs are 3 to 4 times what you think that repair cost you.
Yeah. And I'm going to agree with that. That's something that we've noticed with some of the older cars. And if we start noticing them get close to what that lease payment would be, we just go ahead and get them out of the fleet. Right. We'll turn around and sell them, do something different with them. We've had really good luck. We've not had tremendous repair cost or maintenance cost in any of the cars that we have. But, it's something to think about for sure. Again, right about the $110 mark a month is where we're at on insurance. And, then you've got ARS, which calculates a little bit into that. I'll be honest with you, we've not had to invest too much in our loaner fleet as a whole. All of these cars I've bought for $200 or $300. I might have spent $300-$400 fixing them, and they just go in the loaner fleet, and occasionally we'll service them and do some maintenance stuff in them, but very rarely do we invest a significant amount in them. Typically, if I'm seeing it get over something in a 12-month period where we're spending more than $300 or $400 a month in that 12-month period, that car's going out of the fleet. We're not going to do that.
All of your cars are cars that you bought from clients that didn't want to do the repair?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How many do you have?
7. Got 7.
What do you think is the appropriate number to have as a ratio of daily car count?
So for us, one of the big things that we've noted about our operation is we are really tight space wise where we're at right now. So there are days that we'll have 45 to 50 cars here, and they all approve big work through the span of the week. We need more loaners. So typically, like I said, we have 3 loaners per tech. I don't go off car count. I'm kind of like Seth, looking at how many techs do I have working and how many loaners do I need to back that up. There are definitely times that I could have 5 to 6 loaners per tech and keep them full. But that is just an issue of my capacity, right? I don't have enough throughput where I'm at with 2.5 techs.
So I think the appropriate metric is how long is the average car at your shop, and if the average turn rate is a day and a half, and I have 10 cars a day, then I need 15 loaner cars, and that means I've got a car available for every client.
Well, but I mean, yeah, I guess you could look at it like that. But from my perspective, we have a whole lot more folks who say, I don't need one. Right. We offer everybody one when we have one. And there's a high majority of folks who never ask for one, don't want one, wouldn't want one, period. Especially I've noticed, and it's something to come back to the advantage of buying newer and nicer cars is I've had some clients who don't want to drive the older cars. Right. They want a newer, nicer car. They're not interested in driving, a 2000 Avalon. Right now, I'll drive that car to Texas and back, and it won't hurt my feelings a bit. But they're not interested in that. So it's something to think about when making those decisions. Benji, don't you have some loaner cars?
Nope, I wound up selling them all. Sold mine.
Look at that Polo. Look at that Polo. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, big round of applause right there. That's awesome. Made the commitment.
When I come in this afternoon, first thing my wife did, she starts pulling it out and looking all around. She said, "Okay, I'll give you day one." Yes,
you mean it didn't get any grease on it?
I think she said she found a little spot on the back. I whatever.
That's because somebody gave you a pat on the back. That's good news, right?
Maybe that's what it was.
Lucas, you'll be happy to hear that Benji committed to calling the rollback next week to get his toolbox.
Oh, that's pretty slick. I can't wait to see that happen. Can we get a video of that?
Now, my thing was I don't have anywhere to put my toolbox at home. So then Mike suggested Marketplace.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, look, I hear Mike buys tools for pennies on the dollar all day long. He's tooling up these new apprentices pretty well. So
maybe I'll just sell it. Well, I don't know if I move up to the mountains, I'm gonna have to come get a job with you changing oil. So I might better hang on to them tools.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm gonna tell you something.
Lucas pays his GSs $100,000 a year.
I know.
You dang right I do. Hey, look, and I'll be honest with you though. I've heard owners make really bad GSs. They're really slow, really slow.
Yeah, but we're gonna do a good DVI on it.
That's it. Amen.
I sent Lucas a screenshot of my ATEX paycheck for 2 weeks.
Yeah. That's where we need to be, right?
$8,100 for a 2-week paycheck.
Yeah. I think that's where we all need to be.
So a true ATEC in a Euro specialty shop should be making that much.
It's 100. If he keeps it up, it's 170 grand a year, 160 grand a year.
Yeah. He's worth that if he's really an ATEC in a Euro shop. So
Great.
Now the rest of us have to drag our poor butt labor rates up to be able to afford those guys.
Mine just keeps ticking up week after week, month after month. And I've committed myself, and I know we're supposed to be talking about loaner cars, but I'm going to tell you what, I have committed myself that every single time I raise the labor rate, I give it 4 weeks to balance it, monitor my GP on labor, right? Actual GP, not what Shopware or whatever tells me, what my actual GP on labor is. And then make a calculation, and I'll add something for them, and we basically split the difference to make sure that the shop stays locked in at its what we want to be at to be profitable.
Lucas, you said you give it 4 weeks, which means that's not a full month, which means you're not waiting for your end of month financials. What numbers are you using to determine your actual GP on labor? Is that payroll cost?
Yeah, so we're looking at actual payroll cost, and my wife does payroll, so she enters it as she does it. So we're able to watch, and I'm using their gross numbers to kind of get a feel for where we're at. So that's what we're using, and then we're using, of course, data as far as labor sales within Shopware.
What's your target labor margin?
70%. That's what I'm shooting for. Do what?
How often do you hit it?
We're locked in, right? We've stayed locked at it, right? But now where I've gone up over the next 4 weeks, the first 2 or 3 weeks, you'll see it kind of go up just a touch. And then by the 4th week, it'll go up significantly. So basically I make one adjustment a month where we go up at the beginning of the month or wherever it is. For the next 4 weeks, I monitor. By the 4th week, you see about where it's going to sit at. And then once I see that, then I'll come in and make adjustments to their pay plan, and it will take them up a little bit. And then we'll let that monitor out. And then by the time we get done with that process, we're ready to make the next adjustment. So
as you are adapting to the labor market and the supply and demand, you're increasing your labor retail to increase your margin. And then when the margin gets where it needs to be, you're bumping up your labor cost to maintain 70 points.
Yes, correct.
So you're seesawing up to maintain.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I don't want them to ever think for half a second that I'm here trying to line my pockets. I am literally doing this. A good bit of what I'm doing it for them. Right.
Okay. So making a good living is not a dirty word, right?
Right.
You're taking all the risk. You should be able to line your pockets, and they can too.
Of course.
So that's been a conversation in my organization of late, is proactive increases in compensation, not associated with any 6-month review, not associated with any significant increase in certification. It's just, dude, you're doing a good job and you're a good part of the team. You're worth more money. Allow us to pay you.
This will go off the rails, but I don't do annual reviews. I haven't for the last 3 years. We don't do annual reviews ever. They're the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. So they're the worst thing in the world if the staff assumes that an annual review is accompanied by a raise.
No, they're just bad. They're just bad to begin with. I've never had anybody walk out of an annual review and feel good.
Well, I think there needs to be consistent feedback, right? There needs to be a consistent method for which they can judge whether or not they're succeeding or struggling, right? I think it's a mistake to tie an annual review to a raise, because then it becomes an expectation. It's the same way I think that Christmas bonuses are a mistake. You don't get a bonus because it's December 25th. You get a bonus because you've made yourself more valuable.
Yeah, we do catalytic. We do a version of catalytic coaching and coach, and we do them yearly throughout the year. We do not do a yearly review at all.
I heard Dutch almost try to chime in and then think better of it.
No, he was. Hey, listen, he was telling Seth to go pee. Really surprised that.
There's a good boy.
That's it.
I inadvertently hit the button when the unmute button when I went to put the phone back on my belt holster. So we disagree at some points, Mike, but I don't want to go off the rails.
That's not as bad. Dutch, that's not as bad as Vision when I forgot to turn the mic off. I went to the bathroom at break and walked back into the room of 40 people.
And that's why Justin's teaching the class at ASD. You've already ruined it for the rest of us.
Hey, I want everyone to know that I'm working on Seth to come to AST, not to teach a class, but just for social awkwardness. I just need you there with me while doing fireball shots and making inappropriate comments.
I really agree. Seth, I mean, now there's 2 of us saying you need to come. You can't say no to both of us.
Dean
But see, the
Bailey's
thing is,
not
I
a
want
precious
to get Seth there so that once again I can buy dinner and embarrass him a little bit because he hates when I buy. So for me,
I still snuck that dinner out of you, Dutch. You had no chance.
I wasn't there. I mean, it's not much of a sneak if I wasn't at the event, you know.
So back to our loaner car topic. Benji, why'd you get rid of your loaner cars?
Really don't have a good reason. When I should have been adding to, I just sold out.
Right.
That's no reason, but that's what happened. I wound up selling them all off, and I really need to get some more and get it done. Get back
thinking
into
you're
it
going
again.
new, or you think you're going back with an older used fleet?
Nah, I'll probably get a couple of Gremlins, maybe a Pinto or something along the way.
There you go.
We're out in the country, man. I make you look like big city up there.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, some of your clients ain't going to be real happy if they're driving anything but a 1970 Chevrolet. So
That's right. You
know, hey, listen, if I went somewhere and they offered me a choice of a new car or a 1970 model Chevrolet, I hate to tell you, I'm going to drive Chevrolet.
Hey, not for nothing. Mike just said, you know, Saturn for the win. Hey, I'd take the Saturn over the Mini any day. That's just me.
Well, I mean, that's just common sense.
All right. So here's a question. There is an impending shortage of new cars on the market, right? Microchip shortage, along with all the other part supply shortages. So as that happens, there's going to be a spike in the used car market, and used car values are going to go through the roof because there's not as many budget new cars available. What's that going to do to the lease market? You know, you can go out and get a cheap Jetta for $299, $350 a month, depending upon where you're looking. You can go get Honda Fits. What are they like $250 a month? So right now we can lease cars for loaner vehicles for dirt cheap. I think that number's about to go through the roof. So how does that affect our planning for loaner fleets?
Yeah. Well, that's why I've held off. Right. And it almost makes me wonder what happens to the used car market when that shift occurs. In other words, because it will shift back at some point. So it makes me think, hey, we might see when this finally plays out, we might see a surplus of folks who had held out and had kept that car a little bit longer than what they wanted to, and then it's on the market. So I think there's a ton of advantages to looking at that. Like I said, I'm holding out. I plan to either lease new or lease very close to new and do it through my current bank as opposed to one of their organizations. And make that shift, but it's going to be after the building's complete. So that's where I stand right now. I think that it's kind of a wait and see type approach for me now. I'm not making any changes to the loaner fleet. If anything, I'm going to add some more used older cars to it for the time being because I can get my hands on them. But for right now, that's the extent of what I'm going to do.
Okay, next question. Dealerships, high-level dealerships are not stocked with dummies. And if new car inventory is going to become really slack, really minimal, as Seth predicted, or saying others are predicting, zero new car inventory by August, they're not just going to sit back and let no revenue come in. So that means they're going to be going hard after the service business.
Yeah.
They're going to be going hard after trade-in used car inventory. So they're coming after us. Yep. So what can we predict that they're going to be doing to cut into our slice of the pie, and how can we offset that?
Well, I don't want to be the only one talking. Seth?
Yeah, you do. You do. Just face it, Lucas, you do. You love the sound of your own voice. You absolutely want to be the only one talking.
No,
the dulcet
listen.
Tones of Lucas Underwood soothing all of our fears.
We've got to be 100% realistic here. The only reason that I talk so much is to piss you off, old man. I mean, Grandpa.
Well, it works. So there you go. Mission accomplished.
You know, I think from my perspective is that I'm not really affected nearly as much by dealerships. I've got a couple dealerships in the area. They are not very predatory, and they're not very trusted in the first place. So the majority of the service work that you see in the dealerships up here, if you look at their financials, I've got friends who are riders, their financials reflect primarily warranty work. Right. The majority of the work that's being done on repaired vehicles up here is stuff that's outside of warranty, and it's at the independent shops. Yeah. Oh yeah. Not yet. I'm sure they will be. But I guess my point is that, there's a lot of things I'm sure we could do to counter it. I've not thought that far ahead into it right now.
I also think that plays into effect our relationship with our customers or clients as well. A lot of your dealerships are looking, they don't have that. I think there's very few dealerships out there that can compete on the relationship model that we as independents do. It's my opinion.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yep. Very much so. Very much so. So one of the things that I see that comes up pretty consistently is there's a lot of people still on some form of paper loaner agreement. Mike, what are you using?
On ARS as well. It just makes it so much easier. It integrates with my point of sale software. It pulls in all the client data, address data, all of that stuff automatically. It's so easy.
I think there's some advantages to that too. The fact that it pulls in that data, and the fact that means you have to have their address on file. A lot of shops, I've been looking at some databases recently, and a lot of shops are not collecting. I mean, some of them aren't even collecting email addresses and telephone numbers, right? How they're calling them to tell them their car's done, I don't know, but a lot of them are not even putting that in their file. So I think it's really important to do that. So, that's awesome. And you're with TechMetric and ARS, is that right?
Right.
Now, are you able to select with TechMetric to say, hey, this client needs a loaner, and it transfers in and reserves one, or do you still have to manually reserve one?
No, so you go into ARS and you enter the repair order number, and it pulls the data from TechMetric for that repair order number, name, address, phone number, all that kind of stuff. And so
Nice.
we still need to pull in insurance information and credit card information, because we get pre-authorization for the credit card for any traffic tickets or tolls or stoplight tickets or anything like that. And so they're signing authorization for us to bill them for that after the fact. Fuel as well. I don't really enforce my fuel rules because it's not really to be used very often. But we give them a car with a full tank of gas, and they give us a car with a full tank of gas 9 times out of 10. So.
Yeah, I've had a really similar experience, and we just kind of got to the point that especially with fast turnover. So we let loaners go out with anything. It doesn't matter if it's an oil service or North Carolina State inspection, that there is no restriction on what you can get a loaner for. The only thing that you won't get a loaner for is if you've abused them in the past, or if you have a blow and go in your car. You're not getting my loaner. So something to make sure that you put on paper. But I will say that
does that happen a lot in your customer base?
Dude, I'm telling you, it happened today. And this dude came down and he said, I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't think I should be the one driving the rental car. And I said, why is that? He said, because I got a blow and go. I said, well, that's really great. Because I needed to know that, because I'm going to charge you more to disable that in your car. Thank you. But so one of the things that I'll say about that is, when you get into a quick and a fast turnover like that, we found it really difficult to keep up with who was in what car, when did it need to be back by, and who was going back in it. So, and especially with that information collection, one of the things that I really liked about ARS was that with information collection, when you can email it to them and collect that information, instead of having that additional 5 to 10 minutes at the front counter, getting the copy of their driver's license and their insurance and all that, that was a big deal for me. That made a tremendous difference in the shop and the workflow, especially stress level first thing on a Monday or Tuesday morning. That was a huge deal for us.
Now, Lucas, you're talking about such a quick turnaround as far as be it an oil service inspection, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing between customers as far as that car comes in at lunchtime and it's scheduled to go right back out? Do you have a GS that's going through, or Bridget or somebody going through just checking everything?
So the porter will go through, check all the fluids, do a quick visual on everything, and clean the car. And then every so many miles, basically, it gets the cursory every 1,500 miles. It gets a comprehensive and an oil service every 3,000 miles. So it warns us when it's time for an oil service, and it'll pop up. And before it can go back out, it has to go to them for an oil service and a comprehensive at the 3,000 mark. So we're keeping a really close eye on them. And we, anything they need, tire stuff like that, we go ahead and just make the repairs right then and there. So
do you do like a quick 4-corner picture? Have you ever had anything come up where, somebody backed into something, screwed up a bumper, something small like that
right.
come up?
With the, I've had a couple loaner cars that had little dents and dings and stuff like that. Initially, when I got them, I was worried about it. And then I don't really care. Right. Especially with these older ones, it's not worth even worrying about and trying to go back and go through it. Obviously, if we put newer cars on, that might be something we look more into, but right now it's not the end of the world for us. We've only had one car damaged the entire time we've had the loaner cars. And initially I was pretty frustrated. The gentleman acted like he was drunk. And we sent somebody out. We actually called the local police department because he called and he said he was returning the vehicle. It was 9:00 at night and he was saying good morning and things like that. And we thought that he was drunk. And so we called the local police department, and he had wrecked the car. And he had run it off in the ditch. It wasn't anything we couldn't fix, but he'd run it off in the ditch. And it turns out that what had happened is that he was a veteran and he had medications for PTSD, and he had mixed his medications up. And so, anything can happen, right? Anybody can make a mistake. You can, I think it's important to recognize you should not be attached to these cars. These are not daily drivers for you,
That's true.
You just got to smile and move on with it.
Yeah,
Wait,
I like Seth's comment.
Did Seth just say he's had one of his loaner cars used in a drive-by shooting?
Oh yeah. We had one. The customer left running in their driveway. It got stolen. It got used in a drive-by shooting. Then the guy got arrested and the car got impounded, and then we had to go retrieve the car out of impound. It was just absolutely totaled.
So I mean, serious question: was the guy get shot? Did he hit his target, or?
I don't know. Cops didn't tell us that, but customer's insurance paid for the car, and we made the customer's insurance pay for everything. Not a big deal. We've had cars. We had car T-boned at a stoplight by a drunk driver. I could tell you stories of loaner cars. I've had them for 10 years, but none of it stops me from having them. But we've had our share of incidences.
Yeah.
So should we ask about having a separate LLC in which to hold your loaner fleet? I know Dutch has a feeling about this. I know Seth has a feeling about this. As a way to separate liability, to create more of a corporate veil in liability. Anyone want to speak up? Seth, you're already shaking your head visibly. Dutch, I can see you shaking your head even though your camera's not turned on.
No, I'm torn because there's conflicting advice. All right. Seth makes a very good point that trying to establish another layer of insulation can be an exercise in futility, because if there's an event where there's an accident or incident and someone gets hurt, the chain of custody is going to be, yes, XYZ Corporation owns it, but in my case, A&M Auto Service were the last people to work on it, so we can expect to be brought into the suit for subrogation anyway. Yet, in talking with some legal people, they're telling me that I should do that. So, I don't, up until when I had my loaners, it was all under the company name. It wasn't separate. And then I stopped because I got tired of people abusing stuff that they don't own, forgetting to bring gas back in the car, or they take it and it's full and they drive 6 miles one way and 6 miles back. When they bring it back, it's still full. So in their mind, it doesn't need to have any gas in it. I took these cars and I was not able to, I looked at that as being an extension of an insult, because when I rent a car or I use somebody else's property, I take care of that, when it doesn't matter what it is, as if it was mine, because that's the way I was raised. There are a lot of people who simply don't. And that really bothered me, that they would abuse these cars. I had little stickers on them: please don't smoke in the car. Smoking is prohibited. Only one person can drive the car, the person who's on the, remain within 25 miles of the shop, etc. All of these are bound on a legal agreement that I had my attorney draw up, and it didn't matter. Well, I didn't really think, that applied to me, Dutch, because I've been with you for the last 10 years, and I went up to Virginia. What are you doing up? Because I would wind up getting, when you go to, there are the automatic tolls that you could get. And I'm winding up, I'm the one that's getting charged this, and I didn't keep the credit card information on file because I have security concerns. I don't like being responsible for that. I don't want to have to keep the credit card information on file. So for me, it wound up being a real hassle, because yes, certainly some people appreciated, but enough people just didn't give a crap about it, to the point where I was getting really frustrated with it. Why do you handle this as somebody else is doing you a favor, letting you use their vehicle with certain restrictions? Please be considerate of others. And that didn't seem to matter. I mean, they would leave the cars with fast food wrappers in them, and they would let their kids eat in the car, so you got Cheerios in the back seat. It's like, I guess I didn't look at it from a hardcore, it's just an asset type of perspective. And I suspect that I should have, but I couldn't do it because I knew these cars. These cars were my customers' cars. I took care of them. I wound up fixing them. And then when it was time that they wanted to get a new car, I would make them an offer on the car. So, and I didn't have these issues in all the time, and I had loaners for 6 or 7 years. I only had 2 that ever broke down, and one of it was not a real breakdown. It was that the lady left the lights on and drained the battery overnight.
See, I mean, I can quote Minnesota statute, but it doesn't help anybody else in this call. But Minnesota statute 65B49 says that loaner cars or rental cars, the owner of the rental car is not liable for anything more than $100,000, except for the event of gross negligence. And if you're in a gross negligent event, you're gonna be all sued anyways. Like and if you're the shop that's repairing it, for me, I look at it, I got brand new loaner cars. If there's an issue of something that really failed on the car, and the car's under warranty, who's got bigger pockets, me or BMW or Volkswagen? They're going to be named higher in the suit. I'm second fiddle. So just something to consider. And look at what your state statutes are, because most state statutes have a cap on what a rental car, because of the lobby, or a loaner car can be sued for.
Dutch, I'm a little surprised. I'm not surprised that you take it personally when people abuse what you're providing for them, because you're a man of very high moral compass, right? And there's no smart ass in that at all. And you are a relational style business, and people are going to abuse things that they are given for free, no matter what. And they are going to not see the value in it. But some of the technology that has come along in the last few years, like ARS, they're going to fill out that information. They're going to add their credit card to that document that's going to be stored in the cloud and never on your database. That you're never going to have access to that. And they're going to sign that agreement just like they do when they're at Thrifty or Budget or whoever they use for a rental car agreement, right? And they're signing to agree to pay for fuel at the price which you determine when you set up ARS, and to pay for tolls, and to pay for red light tickets, and to pay for parking tickets, anything that comes across thereafter. So I think that is something that you are very capable of training your team for, and that is training, right? This is a rental agreement. Now, I'm paying the rental bill for you, but any additional charges that come across, that's what you're agreeing to when you sign on this. And I feel like you can 100% train your team, or you can deliver that very effectively. And maybe you can offer that benefit to your client base, which is more relational than almost any shop that I know. And so I think they're going to appreciate that and understand that. And if 5% of the people get kickback, that's probably the 5% you're trying to shed anyway, right?
No, I mean, you certainly have a valid point. There's no, I'm going to concede that you're right. Okay, and this is my own prejudice and my own bias against it. This has nothing to do with the customers, and as much as I'm 60-something years old, and I don't have the time or the patience to deal with people who can't be bothered to exercise simple consideration. So basically, my attitude has been, look, I'm giving you a privilege. You're using this privilege. You abuse the privilege, you lose the privilege. That's the way it works. And I haven't seen a resultant loss in business because of it. And when people have asked me that have been with me for years, literally decades, what happened to the loaner cars? I just look at them straight in the face and I say, people abused it. And that's not why I'm here. And most of the time people go, yeah, I understand. And that was the end of it. Now, I'm working with Napa Trax, but I'm working with Trax Classic. I'm not working with the new cloud-based Trax. I think I'm going to go to Shopware at this point. I'm not a fan of TechMetric. I think I'm going to wind up going to Shopware, and at that time I may try the ARS integration. And that look is really unbecoming with that face like you're weaned on a pickle with thumbs down. So really, I don't know that I would wind up doing that anymore, because when it comes down to it, and I say this with love and respect, you're not a handsome man, so you don't really got that anywhere to go if you keep on, yes, come see, come saw, a little yes, a little no. No,
I've already got a beautiful wife, so the game is over. I win.
Well, that's true. I married up as well, but that's only because my mother wanted grandchildren and she knew I wouldn't breed well in captivity. So she would send my wife a check at the end of every month. That's basically the only way I was going to be able to procreate, because there isn't anybody who really would want to marry me. So I get it. But in all seriousness, you're right. The thing to do would be to have this automated. I just have to get it through my head to not take this personally. And I was. I absolutely, and that's a shortcoming on my part. It's just an asset. But if I loan somebody a wrench and they abuse that wrench, I'm not loaning that to them anymore. And my willingness to continue to loan a tool, I used to loan tools out to other shops because I wanted to raise the bar. I quit doing that because they weren't investing in themselves and they were abusing the equipment. So no, you've got an absolute right point, and I should do that. And I might in the future. I'm looking back, I still have, I sold a few of them. Right now I've got 4 cars that I could put on the loaner program, but I think I'm going to wait until Shopware before I do that.
I need Maddie, if on the recording, if you could please mark this timestamp. I just changed Dutch's mind on something. Just want that to be noted.
You better.
Also admitted he was wrong. I heard that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not perfect. I thought I was, wrong once, but I was mistaken. That's the way that works. Look, adapt or die, right? We're in a changing time, even with personnel and how we handle employees and mollycoddle them now because they're weak. These are the things that you have to wind up doing, holding their hand and asking them if it was okay if they breathed right today and how things were at home, and have to really, pretend like you really give a crap because they're too weak to actually have the self-esteem built on anything that had to do with actual accomplishment. Oh, look, you put your pants on all by yourself. You wiped your own butt when you went to the bathroom. But so that's it.
Dutch,
Yeah.
I want you to know that you wear the mask of grumpy old man very well. But I know that you love your employees, and I know that you don't actually think that of them. So people are
my
different.
employees don't have those same type of issues. I come from a generation where we had certain expectations, and those are the employees that I hired. That people that had the same expectations, the same culture, the same thought processes.
Well, I mean, I think just because the inbound generation of technicians and generation of advisors and people on the whole view things differently than us, they experienced a different life in their childhood, and their educational upbringing was different than ours. I think it limits our ability to grow and to continue to lead in the industry if we pigeonhole people into being simple or snowflakes or anything else. They're just different, and we have to learn how to communicate with them. We have to learn how to lead them, or we're going to get left behind, and they're going to go off on their own and do their own gig, right? So I'm not here to tell you boo-hoo on you for being a grumpy old man, because I don't think you really are. But we can't paint with such a broad brush. There are definitely snowflakes out there. There are definitely overly sensitive little pansies, but there are incredible young men and women out there also who are going to help us survive as an aftermarket industry and not get us crushed into, lack of right to repair or lack of information access, that kind of thing. So shame on you for painting with a broad brush, Dutch.
I'm crushed. I'm hurt. Really.
I can't wait to buy you dinner in September.
No.
He succeeded in chasing one person off.
Well, there you go.
I mean, look, it's Dutch. What can you say?
He can't stand the heat. Get out of the kitchen.
So in all seriousness, this person's brought up that we're not talking about loaner cars. In all seriousness, though, I personally, there is no way you're going to catch me going away from my loaner cars. Oh man, that added a layer of complexity to my comment that I wasn't prepared for, Jim.
Said I was here to cause trouble. He said, "Get out of the kitchen," and I thought Dutch oven. What can I say?
Very, very accurate, sir. Very accurate. So those of us who have loaner cars, I'm just curious, is there anybody here who regrets having them?
Not at all. It's probably one of the most useful tools we have.
I agree.
It is the number one way I combat not being open on Saturdays.
Yeah.
I don't have to be open on Saturdays. I can have happy employees who experience a work-life balance, and they can be with their family on the weekends, and we can still take care of your car.
Yeah.
Hey, I do have one question as far as the old junk Saturns and the new BMWs or whatever. What about the adage as far as, if you've got that customer that's got that $5,000 to $8,000 repair, and then you go put them in a brand new vehicle and they get that new car smell? Seth, I see you shaking your head. What? Tell me.
Hey, I tell you what happens. Our customers come back from our rental cars and they say, I love my car. Now I know what it feels like to be poor again.
That is such a rumor, and I used to say the same thing because I didn't have the ability to buy a new cars, and it's a crutch that I've never seen it actually happen in real life. If that customer wants a new car, they're buying a new car. They're not buying a new car because they're driving your brand new car. I've never seen that happen. They're going to make a choice to repair their car. I've never seen somebody go, man, that loaner car is so nice, I want to go buy one of these. I've had new cars for 5 years has been my lease program on new cars, and I've had one time maybe somebody said, I'm going to buy a new car because I like driving this. Great. Well, you didn't like your car anyways, and their car's out of warranty, and I see them now. So,
Yeah. Well, I do have old junk too. I mean, it's not Mini Coopers, but it's old junk. So,
well, I've had really good luck with my older cars. I am thinking, like I said, because we have 2 places up here that rent cars, and every single time you call them to rent a car, they are out of cars. And this was before the rental car shortage. Right. And so it is really difficult. And the other thing is they don't rent to college students. And so I'm almost thinking I'm interested in taking a little bit of risk for some potential reward, and get some very base model type cars and put on an actual rental program. And it would be under a different business name. And that's not because of what we're worried about, liability. It's because it would literally be different entity altogether anyway. So that's something that we're looking at, and I'm trying to weigh that out a little bit, and the real reason that we're looking at newer cars and leases is because me personally, if I went out and I was going to rent a car and they went and put me in a 98 Maxima, I'm going to kind of be like, what the hell am I paying this for? So I'm thinking if that can also feed the shop's rental program or loaner program, I think that's pretty important to me, as long as it's clean. Maddie, what are you talking about? Don't worry about that smell. It's fine.
That car, if I'm getting in a car and it's worse than mine, I'm not happy. But if the car is, I'm not saying it needs to be pristine, no spots, no nothing. I'm saying it needs to be clean, no trash, no crumbs, no whatever, just clean.
Yeah. It's really funny. When I first got my loaner cars, one of the interesting things is, as I was putting the system in place to have loaner cars, one of my really good friends broke down in Knoxville, Tennessee, and they got a loaner car from a shop. And he called me and he said, you said you were getting loaner cars. And I said, yeah. He said, let me tell you what not to do. He said, this thing smells like vomit. He said, it smokes so bad you can't see the cars behind you in the road. He said, it's disgusting. He said, I got in it and my hand literally stuck to the steering wheel. He said, I had to pull my hand off the steering wheel to get off of it. So sticky. And I thought, man, we need to come up with a system to make sure that doesn't happen. So I think that's a really valid point. And if you watch, there's a lot of people who feel that exact same way. Lots of folks who say that about loaner cars. And that's one of the first things we get asked is it nice? So I think that's definitely something to think about.
Can I ask a serious question now?
Yes.
I've noticed a couple of comments about expected costs on loaners in the fleet and, insurance and costs, and they were kind of monthly costs. Do any of you, with either your own fleet or with your clients, base decisions off of cost per mile, average cost per mile for maintenance and repair?
I do not know. Seth?
Used to, not so much anymore. It's not been a hot topic as much anymore.
Just a curiosity, because I used to look at, I guess, from being around fleets, they would look at a chassis and cost per mile. And it varies by platform. In other words, the cost per mile for maintenance and repair on a 3/4 ton 4-wheel drive is going to be different than a Toyota Camry, but it's still a baseline. I guess the difficulty was getting people to remember that it goes back to the in-service date, not just what it cost you over the last 3 months. So just curious.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, we talk a lot about standards in our industry as a whole. And I think that's something that we don't have a lot of. So when you talk about, hey, what is the average cost of maintaining your loaner fleet? Most shops aren't going to be able to tell you that. I couldn't tell you exactly. I'd have to go back and look at the P&L and break it out. I don't know exactly. I've done that a few times, but you know, I think that that's something we could definitely put on top of that and break that down a little bit further to know. And you know, one of the interesting things is I always see shop owners. Benji, I can't read what that says. But
it ain't for you.
You know, I think we see shop owners say, well, I can't afford that. That's too expensive. Right. They look at a new piece of equipment. They look at that loaner car. They look at whatever it may be, and they say, I can't afford that. That's too expensive. But they never truly break it down. They never look at the return on investment. They never look at what that could make them, the stress that it could take off their plate. You know, years ago, I would have looked at loaner cars and said, there's no way I can afford that. I don't think there's a way I could afford to not have them now. Right. We're typically around $1,000 ARO. And without loaner cars, that does not happen in our shop because we're too slow. Right. So I think that's a valid point. We need some standards on how we measure the cost of a loaner car. All right. Is anybody in this group not registered for ASTE? Because I vote that tomorrow it's going to fill up really quick. If you guys need to register, you better do it.
I'll register in the morning.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Does anybody else need help registering? Because Trisha or Maddie can help. Okay.
I do suggest that when you go to register tomorrow, be sure that you know what classes you're going to take, who you're registering, and what your t-shirt size is, because those are all requirements to register.
Hey, listen, after the pandemic, we're all 4XL. It's okay.
Our class is not a typical BMW class either. The one we're doing is going to be an intro to BMW and how to get yourself into those cars. So
awesome. Definitely need a lot of that. So, well, guys, it has been a great evening. I couldn't think of a better bunch to sit around and chat with, except for Dutch. Who invited him anyway?